Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Here we have a new week in now the days, the 9 days, last 9 days before Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, which will be next Saturday night, immediately after Shabbat. We begin a 24-hour fast, reminding ourselves of the destruction of the first temple and the second, and also about 500 years, about 400 and about 500 years later, the destruction of the second temple. 490 years later, destruction of the second temple, and other tragedies that also occurred to the Jewish people on the ninth day of. But also to remind us that the Jewish people are special, right? While other nations completely disappeared from the world, and because they went against what God said. The Jewish people also went against what God said, but here we are. We're still here. And one of the reasons we're still here is because God destroyed the temples instead of destroying the Jewish people. So he took us out on the temple. So, on one hand, it's a comforting thing that we're still here. But on the other hand, it's not a comforting thing that we're sort of missing the point over here. So, God willing, our generation is the one that's going to get the point. And what is the point? That the Jewish people, whether they want it or not, whether they like it or not, whether they oppose it or not, whether they're aware of it or not, are God's chosen people. He's Jew. He's Jew. It's not just like the Jews were chosen, a long time ago. God took them out of Egypt and he gave them the Torah, and then he just, God said enough. It was a failed experiment. I'm going to take somebody else. That's not true, even though logically it could be true, and logically it should be true. But the fact is, it's not true. Nations come and nations go. Why not? Same thing with the Jews. So, and then some people say that's what it is. The Jewish people made it up. Anyway, whatever it is, the fact of the matter is here we are. At least I believe it. And I'm sure the Lubavitcher Rebbe believes it. And there's a lot of other people that also believe it. That doesn't make us right, but it does make it a big, big question mark. Why in the world do we still believe in it? We read the Torah, and we see now more and more Jews are becoming Jewish actively, instead of just passively or unconsciously or subconsciously or whatever it's called. Okay, so that idea of the Jewish people coming to Jewish awareness and becoming partners with the creator of the universe, that's called coming out of exile. That's called coming out of exile. And that is hinted at by the Haftorah, which is read after the regular Torah reading of this coming Shabbat. It's a sentence from Isaiah. At the end of the sentence, it's a whole paragraph of Isaiah. Which paragraph is it? Something like, let me tell you, instead of just guessing. Here we go. Yeah, it's the beginning. Huh? Yeah, the beginning of the book of Isaiah. Here we go. It's the vision of Isaiah. Chazon Yeshayahu. How I got the name Isaiah. I don't know if you would call, if he would be here and you'd say Isaiah, I don't think he would turn around. His name is Yeshayahu. As Yeshayahu, he says this prophecy about the Jewish people. You got to get it together. You're really doing a terrible job. But in the end, he says, Sion b'mishpat tepara v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Don't worry about it. You're going to go into exile. The temple will be destroyed. The second temple will be destroyed. An interesting thing we learned, I don't know, maybe we'll learn this today. We'll learn the laws of the Holy Temple. That King Solomon, when he built the temple, he knew it was going to be destroyed. So he made a special deep room down deep in winding hidden chamber, hidden chamber, and that they could put the ark there. That's what King Solomon says. So these movies about where's the hidden ark, if it's hidden in the mountains of the Ozarks or someplace. There's a nice movies. They're money, they're cash cows, like they call it. Maybe they make money, but it's not true. Anyway, so it's very true. King Solomon knew this temple was going to be destroyed. He built the first temple, and he knew the Jewish people weren't going to, they're just too. God expects too much from them. That's what it is. God's expects from them. When the Jewish people, let's put it this way, when the Jewish people start acting like the non-Jews, then God gets angry at them. And what do these other religions say? Well, you just have to start acting like us. God left you, so start acting like us. That's the reason God put us into exile in the first place, because we acted like everybody else. Okay. So what exactly God wants from the Jews is not so simple. But in the world now, we see this amazing upsurgence of anti-Semitism that's never been in the history of the world. Never in the history of the world has there been anything like it. And they're justifying the Nazis, and they're justifying the Hamas, and they're justifying everybody wants to kill us. And they themselves would join the Hamas and the Nazis and those people. They themselves wouldn't mind it if the Jews all got wiped out right now. And they say, no, it never happened. The Jews are just making the whole thing up. In any case, I mean, I don't think there's ever been such a, outbreak of just hating the Jews for absolutely no reason as there is now. And the reason is, I'll tell you what the reason is. The reason is because God chose us for absolutely no reason, and we remain chosen for absolutely no reason. And the job of God is creating everybody, and the Jewish people are supposed to be here to bring conscience to the world and morality to the world, and all these things that people don't like. So therefore, there's this thing of anti-Semitism. Anyway, we're not going into that now. Well, I mean, actually, we are, because we just did. Let's first of all give charity. Here we go. Charity saves from death. Charity saves from. Here we go. Very good. Charity brings all good things. Charity brings the future redemption. But just in general, it's a big question. Here we go. Where is this thing anti-Semitism? What is anti-Semitism? What is Semite? Go to any town and say, what are the Semites? I want a Semitic food restaurant. Right? My Semitic mother, my Yiddish mama, right? Semitic. There's no such thing as a Semite. Go anywhere, a Semite. So somehow or other, the world has cloaked this thing of just hating Jews, and they they don't hate Jews, they hate Semites. What does it mean? Okay. So Tzion. Oh, here we go. So Torah book. Here we go. Good morning. Are we recording? Yes, we're recording. Okay. Torah Baboker. Wonderful name. Here, let's see if I can. No, I suspect that this is the same thing as before. It doesn't. Oh, there we go. Good. Okay. Tzion b'mishpat tepareh v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Tzion means the Jewish people. Jewish people are called Tzion. Tzion means several things. Tzion means the land of Israel. Tzion means Jerusalem. Sometimes it also means the Holy Temple. Tzion. The word Tzion means a sign, like a road sign, like they say a marker that points to something else. Make a Tzion. It's a road sign. A big road sign. You are now entering, Tel Aviv. The big sign. The sign is not Tel Aviv, but the sign is pointing to Tel Aviv. The same thing, the Jewish people and the land of Israel and Jerusalem, they're pointing to the Creator. They're pointing to the fact there's a Creator, and that the Creator is creating everything now, and He cares about every detail. Cares about every detail. It's infinitely good, infinitely loving, and He's creating every detail from His good and from His love. But He's also very demanding. Okay, that's Tzion. So it says Tzion, let's say for now, simply the Jewish people. The Jewish people, the Mishpat Tepareh v'Shaveh Tzedakah. This is the end of the first chapter of Isaiah. How many chapters are in there? Isaiah? 80 something, right? 1 second, I'll tell you 1 second. I'll tell you in a minute. In Isaiah. Let's go to the, okay. There are, no, wrong. There are 60 something. That's right. There are 66 chapters of Isaiah. And from the 40th chapter of Isaiah, it gets like only positive. Up to there, it's pretty, severe against the Jews, even though that every single chapter, every single paragraph contains some redeeming sentence in it about how God will never leave the Jews, and God always cares about the Jews, and God would gather the Jews. And here's one example. At the end of the first one, God really gives it to the Jews. And He says, through Isaiah, and He said, "You've left me, and what are you talking? What are you doing? What are you doing?" But then finally, in the end, it says, "Tzion b'mishpat tepareh v'shaveh b'tzedakah." Zion, the Jewish people, through mishpat, through mishpat means through law. Let's say it's the Torah. V'shaveh and it's prisoners. The word shaveh means prisoners, and it also means it's returners, ones who return, b'shaveh, but stuck with charity. So we have Torah and charity. Let's get a little more into this. Now, again, what we're going to be talking about is what exactly is God? What exactly is the Jewish people? What's the connection between them, God and the Jewish people? And how without the Jewish people, no one would have any idea what God is. No one would have any idea what God is. Everyone would think that God is some spiritual power or some sports or Zeus or something that lives on a mountain, who knows what. The Wizard of Oz. The Jewish people came to explain to the world how much God cares about each and every individual, and that the Torah is the guidelines of what man is supposed to do. Let's see, for the non-Jews, it's 7 Noahide commandments. For the Jews, it's commandments. Let's go. Nevertheless, the Jews now are in exile, terrible, terrible, self-imposed, godly imposed exile. But don't worry, says Isaiah. Sion b'mishpat, the Jewish people will be redeemed with law, and its prisoners or whatever through charity. It is written, it says, these words which I command you today. This we say right before, we're now beginning the book of Deuteronomy, right? So in the first chapter, the second chapter of Deuteronomy, the second reading of Deuteronomy that we're going to read next week, that has the commandment of Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael is the motto of the Jewish people. It's, what is it? Chapter 6, sentence 4. That's where it starts. It says, listen, Jews, God is our God. God is one. You should love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might. And these words that I command you today should be on your heart, and you should speak them when you walk in the streets, when you lay down, when you wake up. That what it says, that God is saying this, and he said it 3,300 years ago. This is said right before the Jews went into the land of Israel. This refers to these words that I say to you today. What does it mean today? Back then, right? It says no. Perish Kai al Kol Yom. It refers to every single day of creation afterwards. Ki b'kol Yom, every day. Yiyu beinecha kadashim, every day. The Torah should be in your eyes brand new. And in fact, the world is being created brand new. And in fact, you are being created brand new. Every instant. And the Torah is the, like we say, the blueprint, the guidelines, the soul of the world. Like in the Holy of Holies, what was on the Holy Temple, the main batteries of, you want to call it the Holy Temple, where were they? So there was in the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies, what was there? The tablets that Moses got in Mount Sinai. This whole story about the Jewish people being slaves in Egypt for whatever 200 years, and then they got out and they went through the desert and they received the Torah. They went to Mount Sinai, they received the Torah. And then they took the Torah and they were supposed to take it immediately into the land of Israel. The whole point of the Jewish people is the Torah. The Jewish people received the Torah at Mount Sinai. Torah is pure godliness. God wrote the book. He transcribed it to Moses that he should give it, but God wrote the book. God spoke to all the Jewish people, the first 2 of the 10 commandments. So the whole thing is God. Who is God? God is creating us. He's creating you. He's creating everything. And that's just the smallest of his tricks. What did I see yesterday? I can't remember. I saw a cartoon, a joke. Okay, anyway. I'll think of it in a second. But how can a person come to this? That it will be so. How can a person get to this, that you feel every second your life is brand new, every second the Torah is brand new? How can you come to this? Now, Judaism is trying to say that this is an obvious fact. It's simply a fact of business. It's not religion. It's not a belief. It is a simple fact. The problem is that it's not such a visible fact, and we have to believe in it in order to get in touch with it. The Yuvan Bahaktim, we can understand, Kihine, behold, Tachlis, Euridus and Hashem, the purpose of the descent of the soul, Milamaila from above, Shehayu Sham, that was there before the 6 days of creation, the soul. The Rebbe here is especially speaking to the Jews, but it applies afterwards to all mankind. All mankind is created by God, right? So we're talking about here the Jewish souls. The Jewish souls were waiting before the 6 days of creation, Sheshit Yemei Bereshit. Because the angels that were created in the 6 days of creation, they were created from, it says, from the breath of God's mouth. Some people say the angels were created on the 2nd day of creation when God made the division. Some people say it was made on the 5th day of creation, where it says that God created the birds and the fish. Of Yofef, that's the angels created then. It says Of, the birds, it says that's Mechoel. And Yofef, it says that's Gavriel, the angel. That's the souls, but that's the angels. The angels are part of creation of the neshamos, but the souls, they were drawn from God's thought. They are part of the Creator. That's the Jewish people. That's what it says. The Jewish people, the sons of God. Bani matam l'Hashem Elokeinu. The Jews are the sons of God. What does it mean? They come from God's thought. This is before the 6 days of creation. Like it says, B'minim lach. Who did God consult with before He made the world? B'nishmoteim b'shel tzadikim, with the souls of the tzadikim. Who are the tzaddikim? The righteous Jews. V'lo tzaddikim levad, not only the Jews that are actually righteous, like it says, Amech kulam tzaddikim. All the Jews are potentially righteous. Righteous means they just do what God wants in the world. So here we have a big surprise, everyone. This world is a creation. This world is being created right now. Every instant brand new. Just like it was the first instant of creation. The first instant when God created it, according to Judaism, was 5,785. In just another month, it's going to be 86 years ago. We Jewish people, our New Year's celebrates the creation of the world, when man was created, the 6th day of creation. We've been celebrating this since the Torah was given. Actually, anyway, the creation of the world. What was there before the creation of the world? There was nothing. There was nothing. There was no time. There was no before the world was created. Before the world was created, there was no before. God just created the world. This is a mystery which I have absolutely no idea how to conceive of such a thing, but that's the fact. That's the fact. And so it says, but the Jewish people were before. The souls of the Jewish people were there before God created the world. Before time, before existence. Which then explains how it is that God is creating the world every instant and we don't feel it, because what would we feel? How could we feel? What would we feel? We feel the nothingness that is between each and every instant. How can you feel nothingness? There's nothing there. I'm not there also. There's nothing. In any case, however it works out, that's the fact. And the world, the point we want to say is that the world is infinitely more nothing than we can possibly imagine because God is creating it. But on the other hand, it's infinitely more important than we can imagine. God is creating it intentionally, personally, every instant. And He's creating the instance as well. He's creating time. He's creating every person. And the Jewish people somehow or other are tied to this mystery of creation because the Jewish people are part of the Creator. That's what it means. All the Jewish people are called tzaddikim. If you read the Talmud, the descent of the soul into the body is only in order to have an elevation, to elevate the souls. What are you going to elevate? What are you going to elevate? There's nothing. How can you elevate the souls? That's why they're put in the soul in the world to make the soul elevated. Says the Rebbe Lahavin. Let's understand, what does it mean? The soul gets elevated. How could it be? Balavach, without this elevation, the souls were in God's thought. How can we be higher than being in the essence of God before time, before existence, before? Makes no sense. Says the Rebbe. So that should not deter you from being excited about Judaism just because it makes no sense. Maybe you don't feel it. Maybe you don't feel it, but if you think about it for 1 second, nothing makes sense. Anything that feels good doesn't make any sense. Why does it, if you get another, win the jackpot, you feel great, you're happy. Why? Why do you feel happy? I feel happy because It's just a good thing. So why do you feel happy when there's a good thing? Why, who says that's the way things good? Why isn't it when you won the other, you should maybe stand on your head and wave a flag in the air or something? What? Frown, maybe cry, maybe things that are pleasure. Where does pleasure come from? Where does it come from? But nobody understands where it comes from. But because we feel it, so therefore we don't ask questions. Here we're talking about essential godliness that we don't feel. And the Rebbe is saying, yes, ask questions. Do ask questions. You should be interested. But don't think for a second that the God we're talking about is like the God of the Eastern religions, that it's just this level of consciousness of pleasure. No, God personally is interested in the world above all pleasure, above all interest. There's some sort of a big plan here. There's a secret prize, a secret jackpot that's involved over here. That's something that's even higher than before the creation of the world. Higher than, when I call it pure godliness. How does that mean? We'll see. But that's Judaism. Judaism, the world is tremendously important. Every detail is tremendously important to God. Your life is meaningful. Whether you think so or not, it is. If you're being created, it's a sign that God loves you. Says the Rebbe. Okay, we're talking about the Jewish people because this class is mostly for Jewish people. The Jewish people arose in God's mind. And the Jewish people, their job is to inform the world that there's such a thing as God. First of all, we have to feel it ourselves. So it says the Jewish people, they arose in God's thought, and that's tremendously high. And they were put into the body in order to bring an elevation to the soul. Let's understand this idea of the elevation of the soul. What does it mean that before the soul was brought into the world, it was in God's thought? How can it be higher than that? Says the Rebbe, and we have to understand the explanation of a prayer that we say in the morning. What's the prayer we say in the morning? Neshama shanatata bi tahorahi. God, the soul that you put inside of me is pure. This is the beginning of prayer. Even before we say any blessings in the morning, like it says in the Gemara. As soon as a person wakes up in the morning, you say Elokei neshama shanatata bi tahorahi. That's what it says. According to Kabbalah, it's not that way. Chabad doesn't exactly do it, but it's in the beginning of the prayer. So as soon as you wake up in the morning, what does it mean? The soul that you put inside of me is pure. What's the soul that put? First of all, who's the me? The soul you put inside of me. I'm the soul. I'm not that soul. I'm not the soul. It says, no, you're the soul. That's a pure soul. And inside of me, that's what's called my body, and my natural soul, my animal soul. A Jew has two souls, it's called. A Jew has a natural soul, sort of like everybody else in the world, that enlivens you if you're interested in the world. And then the Jew has a part of God. And that is put inside. That's pure. That pure soul, that's the pure soul inside of God. What does it mean it's pure? It's from what's called the upper purity of God. Before the world was created, before any divisions. And afterwards, then afterwards, God, you created it, the soul. This is part of the prayer. You created it. That comes into the world. The Bria. Bria means something from nothing. And then it says, that you formed it. That's like the world of the angels. The soul comes through this until you blew it into me. That the soul comes into the body in order to enliven it and to make it into a human being. And that's the story of creation, right? God makes the whole world 6 days. The last thing he creates is man. Puts in a soul inside of a body. And God, you protect it, you keep it in me. The soul does not want to be in the body. By its nature, it wants to go out. This aspect of God that surrounds the soul and keeps the soul in the body, this is what's called makif. In simple English, it's called the reason why God is creating the world. So the soul, unlike us, people don't want to die. Nobody wants to die. Right? The soul, as it is, the Jewish soul feels that coming into the body, that's death. That's death. The soul, before it came into the body, was connected to pure life, pure existence, the Creator himself. That's where the soul comes from. The soul comes from what's called this Tihiri Loa, the upper purity, that's pure life, pure truth. and it comes into the body, and the body confuses it. So the soul, the godly soul, wants to go out, doesn't want to be here. To come into the body, that's like death. That's like taking a person that's like a multi-billionaire, something like that, and he does charity, and he's a wonderful person, and saying, we got first prize for you. We're putting you in a dungeon, and you have to follow our orders all the time. The person says, hey, I don't want to do it. You have no choice. That's what happens to the soul. The soul is put, I say, coerced, forced to come into this body. Every single person, every single Jew. That's the godly soul. So the godly soul comes into what's called the natural body and the animal soul. The kach orin soul, also same thing with godliness. The godliness of God, which to create the world. That's called soviv kolmim, mamali kolmim, how God surrounds the worlds and fills the worlds. Lo soviv b'mayla, and not that it's the light of God surrounds from above. This is a type of a light of God, which is the pure creative force. In every single place, it feels like a garment. It puts garment. It's a garment of life that comes into the creations. The soviv milamayla, and it surrounds from it above, that it shouldn't stop. Okay, let's get this thing at the order. The soul comes into the body, doesn't want to be in the body. What keeps the soul in the body? A purpose. God has a purpose. It has a purpose, keeps the soul into the body. Like, let's say a soldier. No normal person runs, you hear gunshots, you run toward the gunshots. No one runs. A soldier runs toward the gunshot. Why? Because the soldier is there for a purpose. He is there in order to protect the people, in order to exterminate the enemy. You hear gunshots, that's why I'm here. To run over there and protect and get rid of the enemy into this, right? But so that purpose makes him abnormal. Makes a normal person, all of a sudden he's running toward gunshots. It's not normal. The same thing, the Jewish soul. The Jewish soul comes into the world. It doesn't want to be in the world. The world is like a place of battleground. It's dangerous. It's fatal. A soul comes into the body and he can totally forget that he's Jewish, totally forget that he's got there's right and wrong, totally forget everything. It gets killed. The soul is in danger of extermination when it gets put into the body. But nevertheless, God's purpose, why God puts it into the body, that keeps it in the body. That's called soviv. That's called surrounding. Just like the soldier always has to remind himself, I'm protecting the people, I'm fighting against whatever it is from above. That God keeps it in the body so that it won't stop being alive. He calls him on all the time that the soul is inside of us. Modani, this is the end of the part of that prayer. It says, the soul that you put into me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you, etc. All the time the soul is in my body. Modani, I am surrendered to you, God. That each and every person, we can give thanks to God. Okay, thanks to God means I don't understand anything, but I realize somehow that this must be for my good. So here we go. The soul, Jewish soul, is pure. It comes from the reason of creation, before the creation. But it's put into the world and it suffers terribly in the body. Terribly, terribly in the body. And the body conquers the God, Jewish soul, and it obfuscates, confuses. I like that with big words. Something. What's the word? Big words. It confuses. It what do you call it? It darkens its purpose. Its purpose. The whole. What is a GPS? It's right. We want to go to do good things. Okay. Directions are go to the bar room. In the bar room, get into an argument. Are you sure you're giving me the right directions? But don't interrupt. Then steal some money. Then afterwards get jealous. Then get this. Does this GPS? Does this work? Please don't disturb. Take the directions. I'll have to start from the beginning again. Right? You're in the body, and the body gives all sorts of weird directions to the soul, who you really are, and etc. And it confuses it, so a person thinks that there's no good and there's no bad. There's just whatever I feel I should do. He says, but the Jew says, nevertheless, I'm a Jew. And even though I have these problems and I have to serve this invisible God that I don't see, But all the time that the soul is inside of me, I am thankful to you, God. That every person can give thanks to God, even though you don't understand it. It's against your understanding, but I believe that God is good. Now, this is already an accomplishment. But afterwards, it's not enough to just give thanks to God. You have to bless. Blessing means to actually change the world. Baruch atah Hashem. This is a very high level than just giving thanks. Giving thanks is you say, okay, I believe God is good. Making blessings means you become a partner with God. You become a partner. And that's the reason why the soul is put into the body. In order to, first of all, surrender to the truth, that we don't understand anything. And secondly, to join the truth, to make blessings in the world. That's the purpose why we're here. The Havins that understand this, what is this giving thanks? Like it says, the Chachamim gave, they surrendered to Rabbi Meir. Surrendered. That's what giving thanks. Giving thanks basically means also surrender. I just want to take one small break here, please. Let's see if I can do this. 1 minute. Now let's go back. Good. All right, so just make a short resume of what we've learned up to now. The Jewish people are in exile. We will be redeemed. In order to understand what this means, we have to understand a little bit about the soul going into exile. The soul comes from a tremendously high place. We were talking about Jews. The Jewish people are the sons of God because why they come from, their soul comes from this very high place, from the essence of God before the world, and it comes into this physical world in order to get an elevation. So what does it mean to get elevated, says the Rebbe? So because the soul comes from this tremendously high place and it's in the body and it doesn't want to be in the body by its nature, the godly soul. But there's a power which is above its nature, and that's what's called Sovev Kolomim, the purpose of creation, that God keeps it in the world. So now here we are in the world. So the soul has to do two things. Step number one, and be thankful. Surrender to God. Don't oppose. Don't defy the Creator. If you're going to defy anything, defy the world, but don't defy the Creator. Don't go against the Creator. I don't feel the Creator. I don't see that there's a Creator. I don't understand that there's a Creator. But you sense that there is a Creator, yes, surrender to Him. He's above your understanding, above your logic. As long as you go according to your own logic and your understanding, you're never going to see Him. So wipe out your logic, at least for a second. Wipe out your understanding for 1 instant at least, so that you surrender yourself to the Creator. That's step number one. But you can't live a life like that, and that's not why God put us in the world. God put us in the world in order to be His partner, and that's called making blessings. That's the purpose of the, it says, ki anu shochne. That's what it says, modim chachamim l'Rabbi Meir. There's an example in the Talmud that says that the rabbis had to agree with Rabbi Meir, even though they didn't understand him at all. They didn't understand him. His mind was too great, but they knew that he was right. Rabbi Meir, they knew that Rabbi Meir was right, and so therefore they had to agree with him. They had to agree with him. A lot of times the law is not like him because the rabbis just couldn't understand how deep he was, but they knew that he was always right. He couldn't explain it to them. They could, because first of all, they disagreed with Rabbi Meir, and then they were modeh. They surrendered to Rabbi Meir. Says, how is this relevant to God? That we disagree with God and then we surrender ourselves to God. So that's just like what I just finished telling you. In anu shochne mata, we are here in the physical world. We say shabriya, that the creation of the world is yesh mi'ayin, that the world that we're in, this is true existence. Huh? The laws of nature are true laws. The facts of nature are true facts. The beauty that's in the world, that's ultimate beauty. The pleasure that's in the world, that's ultimate pleasure. This world is real. Yesh. Where does it come from? Okay, if you're religious, it comes from nothing. It comes from God is not a thing. Sheshamayim va'oretz v'shemei hashamayim davar yesh. The heavens and the earth, these are real. They exist. Hanir leinin, we can see with our eyes. Mashal amaylan, that which is above all these spiritual worlds. Ayin is like nothing. That's what it seems to us. And then there's religious people come and they say, listen, there's the upper world. So it says, okay, so we've expanded our consciousness to include the spiritual worlds, right? That's reality. Reality is this world, maybe the spiritual worlds, that's also reality. But by God, but what's God? God is nothing. God is not real. Not real. The world is real. That's the way it seems to us. But it's low, but by God, blessed be He, it's exactly the opposite. From what? It's the opposite of from what we see by our eyes. Because everything in front of God is like nothing. And everything which is below, it's more zero. And God is the true existence. God is true existence. So it's very difficult for us to understand what exactly this means. But maybe a little bit we can understand. Let's take an example. People, God forbid, that they're addicts. People that are drug addicts, people that they think that their life, at least before they realize that they lost their whole, how do you say, their dignity and their life and their everything. But nevertheless, while they're doing it, they think this is reality. Oh, I get a drug, that's it. Now I am living in a real world. All the other people, they're a bunch of squares, they're a bunch of straights, a bunch of weirdos, whatever it is. And I am living in a true world, a world of real true pleasure, right? That's it. But they don't realize, they can't understand it's something like when a person is asleep. When a person is asleep, he's sure that that's the reality. Generally speaking, when people are asleep, they don't say, this is just a dream. I'm just dreaming this, right? Once in a while, there are dreams like that, but generally speaking, not. When you're asleep, you really think that's what reality is. When the drug addict gets cured or when the person is asleep wakes up, suddenly realizes that, wow, I was fooling myself. Nevertheless, it's still possible to become a drug addict again or to become to go back to sleep again. Another example I just thought of, and you can unthink this, is let's say a child that he's not too smart and he learns mathematics in first grade and he gets it. 2 and 2 is 4. You got it. You got the principle, right? 2 and 2 is 4. It means if you have 2 apples and 2 pears, there's 4 things. And you can even write it down. 2 represents 2 things, and 2 more means 2 other things. It means you get 4 things. So he thinks that he's the biggest genius in the world. Let's say the other kids in the class, they don't know what's going on. And he's the biggest genius. In fact, he doesn't want to go any further in school. He figures that's it, right? And then one day it happens to be that he stumbles into a class of higher mathematics in someplace, and he realizes, wow, all my little 1 and 1 is 2. It's just a little glimmer of what real mathematics is. What real mathematics is. That's really okay. All these examples are not really going to exactly fit the bill because we're talking about what we perceive as ultimate reality against what really is ultimate reality. And what really is ultimate reality is not just higher mathematics or being sober or being awake. It's a thing that we're not experiencing now. The Rebbe is saying now we are now in the state of sleep or addiction or the second grade mathematics or that's how we are. So we can't imagine there's anything higher than us. And the Rebbe is trying to tell us that there is, but we can't imagine what it is. Says the Rebbe, that's what's called surrender. We're surrendering. All this we're saying, modim anachtulach. We are surrendering ourselves to God. We are giving, the obeisance. Sha'anu modim. We surrender. We admit that the truth must be so, like God says. The way God looks at the world. And each and every Jew has this level. Each and every Jew, and that's what makes us a Jew. That's, by the way, where the word Yehudi came from. Yehudi came from the word Hodaya. The first time that this name, the Jews are called Jews from Yisrael, from the third son from the grandson of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Jacob got his name changed to Yisrael. So the Jewish people are the offspring of Yisrael, right? That's what they weren't called the name of Yehudim until in the Megillah of Esther. That was the holiday of Purim, which was right in the beginning of the Second Temple. Right in the Second Temple, because then there were all these different problems and etc. But anyways, they were called Yehudim. Hodaya. Hodaya means surrendering totally to God, even though the whole world says differently, we surrender to God. That's a very interesting thing, by the way. Maybe we'll finish the class here. Judaism is not based on success. Abraham, the first Jew, was not called the first Jew because he succeeded. In fact, if you look in a normal way, Abraham was a big failure. God promised him he was going to get the land of Israel. He didn't give it to him, didn't give it to his son, not to his grandson, not to the generations past, didn't give it to Moses, didn't give it. God promised Abraham, your children are going to be like the stars in the sky and whatever is the sand on the sea. And that has not yet happened. Right? It has not yet happened. There's a lot more stars in the sky than there are Jews, right? Than there are people in the world. So how does it happen? So what is Judaism, right? Read the Bible, you see what Abraham did. Absolutely nothing religious. There's no miracles, there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no lectures, there's no meditations, no contemplations, no nothing. We don't see that Abraham was superior in any way to anybody else in the world. The same thing with Yitzchak, the same thing with Yaakov. Nevertheless, they were pursued, they had enemies, they had problems, right? What was the whole thing of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? That they believed in God. They believed in God, despite all of the difficulties, despite all of the disappointments, despite all the frustrations, despite all the enemies, despite all of the failures, they still believed in God. It says God put Abraham through 10 tests. God promised Abraham 10 times things, whatever, and God didn't come across with the promises. His wife got taken into kidnapped, and all terrible things happened to him, which a person that's being protected by God shouldn't have happened. He got thrown into a fiery furnace, Abraham. But the thing of Abraham was that he believed in God. The same thing if you read the book of Psalms. You read the book of Psalms, you see King David had so many troubles. The main thing of King David was he had hoda'ah. He believed in God. He believed in the Creator. He believed that the Creator is good. But nevertheless, even though he believed, but believing is from far away. He's believing. He has to sort of knock yourself out, remove all of your logic, all of your expectations, all of your normal personality, and believe in God. And it says that's the essence of the Jewish soul, but that's not why we're here. It's just to be zombies, right? And say Shema Yisrael all day. This is just like faith. This is like a crown. And it says to the degree that Jewish people have faith, it says a Jewish thief, before he goes and steals, Rahmana Karya, he prays out to God. He believes in the ability of God to give him success. But he goes against God. Why does he go against God? Because he needs money. God made him into a thief. Not everybody can be a thief. So he does his job. He's a thief. It's against the Torah to be a thief. But okay, what can you do? But on the other hand, he said, that doesn't mean that I don't believe in God. That's faith, emuna, surrender of a bracha, but making a blessing. This is revelation. It says that God, in the Holy of Holies, before Yishmael Kohen Gadol, he was a high priest, he would hear a voice come out, and the voice would say, give me a blessing. God would say to Yishmael the Kohen Gadol, give me a blessing. To bless God. What does that mean, to bless? Bless means to reveal, from the concealment to be revealed. That's what the Jewish people are really here for. We have to believe in God, that we're serving God. We're doing the commandments because they're God's commandments. It's not just a mechanical thing. You do the commandments like an ATM machine. You were doing God's commandments. But that's what it says, these things that I command you today, by means of the commandments and the Torah, we can reveal godliness into our soul. And that's called going out of Egypt. And this is what we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Going out of exile. And that's what we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. That's the idea of the Jewish people will be redeemed with mishpat, that's the Torah, and its prisoners with tzedakah, that's going to be the commandments. We're going to talk about this, God willing, more tomorrow.